And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you today. And thanks for joining us here on KCMX and also on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, realestateshoworegon.com. Joe's over there. He's been standing by, runs our video here for us today. End of April. Here we are, the first part of May. Looking up, there's a lot of activity going on as we're going to talk with our guests here today about.
It's good to be busy.
Yeah,
I like
it
to be
is,
busy.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Lady next to me here is Cheryl Malone. She's a broker with Windermere Van Vliet. Has been on our show with Guy Giles before. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Oh, I'm doing well.
Yeah?
It's a beautiful day here in Oregon. And
It's always beautiful here. No smoke, things like that, right?
That's right.
How are you doing? I mean, how's business going for you? Tell us what's going on with in your world.
Well, it's really picked up the last 2 or 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
People are done with their income taxes, and they got some money in their pockets and their tax returns, and they're ready to buy. It's really picked up a lot this last couple weeks.
Tax returns, what's that called? When you get the money back, what's it called? Refund. I haven't had one of those so long I forgot what the word was. Okay, refunds. They're out there. Yes, that's true. And then think of that one here. Mm-hmm. And the fellow here in the middle, Joe, is an old friend of ours. We welcome here to us is Gary Stampsl.
Thank you.
And we remember Gary back a long time ago when you were a broadcaster too, weren't you?
Well,
here
19 years ago, got into the business of real estate in 2000. So
in 2000, you've been a broker since then. Okay,
so 19th year, and then 35 years in broadcasting prior to that. I would guess 15 here in this area.
It's amazing how many ex-broadcasters from around our world that we've come across in 10 years of doing this show.
And Pete,
Don McCoy's one.
I remember meeting you early days working with Bob Estes in the Goldie Building. I was coming in
the Goldie Building, downtown Medford.
I think you were doing news at the time.
Well, that was like 1985.
That's right.
Wow, that goes back some time.
Long time ago.
Yeah,
he's got the voice for it.
Doesn't he? Though he always has. Yes. Now, I've seen you over the years. Now, you also are with Windermere, so you're both brokers in the same office, right?
Yes,
you're working together out of the thing. Well, one of the things just wanted to just talk about there's so many issues that are out there that deal with housing, as you know, in our valley. And one of them is a shortage of it and all the kinds of things and what's going to change and how can we get more housing for more people, right? And that's a big issue.
Correct.
So you deal with multi-housing a lot. Tell me about that, just what the status is you think of, because both of you are involved with that.
Well, I happened to look at our MLS just before I came in today. There are 11 active 5 or more unit properties listed in Jackson and Josephine County right now. So that's not many. Mm-hmm. And that's 5 or more units. There have been 22 sold in the last year, and mainly in the Josephine County area. That's where we see a lot more sales over there. So we've seen a slowdown in the sales of multifamily residential. I think simply for the fact that for the rate structures that were going up in rentals over the last couple of years,
true.
People hanging on to them, they have to figure out what to do with that money, 1031 that maybe into another property. So if they can't step up and buy additional properties that are on the market or maybe better themselves for the properties they have, they kind of hold tight.
And that's what they're doing right now.
That's
Have
right.
you seen, when the Senate bill was at 608 came out and they passed it, did that have an effect? Did you hear things from landlords, from buyer investors or whatever? What was
Especially
the reaction to that?
5+
in these
units.
Yeah, especially with the larger units.
I haven't heard a lot. And again, that comes about from activity. People, that are talking about listing and selling, that's where you get those comments. And so whenever we're not getting response back from the sellers that want to put their properties on the market, we don't hear a lot of
So they
information
haven't
like
just flooded the market. Remember, Joe, we've had people who said landlords are going to sell everything. They're in the process. They're going to get rid of things. You haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that yet.
Right, Cheryl, what about you? Tell me what your experience has been.
I haven't either, but I come from L.A. where I own some property and that has rent control.
You do? Really? Okay.
Not a big fan of it, trust me. But I think it's definitely going to make a consideration for people buying income property and how they manage it, as opposed to just knowing they can, there's no rules attached to it, and now there are. So I think it's going to be
But it's just following there's always been rules for landlords. I mean, we know that. Is it just a matter of following the new rules? It's managing your business if you have it as a business differently. Is that what landlords really have to do now?
Well, I think it's going to be an adjustment. I think they're going to find out as they go along, as they deal with things and they see what the restrictions and requirements are.
Right. They have to give more notice, and they can't raise the rents.
Right.
And if they have a tenant that they're not quite sure about, they may ask them to move prior to the 1-year deadline, because at that point they have to have a real good cause in order to evict them and things like that. So I mean, I know I'll look at my tenants a little differently.
They've got to adjust to the game.
Yeah.
Well, but that's nothing. I mean, we adjust in our changes in our businesses all the time, and this, of course, was forced upon. The thing which was the good part of it, was that landlords just didn't sell. I mean, the scare tactics were really interesting, and people are just going to sell everything off, and we're going to have this awful situation, and that has not happened, which is good.
Yet.
So, but there's really not many, as you say, 5 units or larger that are out there, even on the market.
That's correct.
What about 4 units, 3 units, 2 units? What is the status of those multifamily units and sales and stuff? Demand.
We get calls from time to time for the 4 units and triplexes. I primarily focus on the higher end. Most of my investors are people that are looking for about a 6.5% cap rate.
Okay.
That's up in the I-5 corridor, and they're shopping all day long, all through Jackson
They're
and
looking
Josephine County.
Wow. Okay.
That's right. And so, you have a lot of people that own the duplex, triplex, and fourplex units. But again, I primarily focus in on the larger facilities. And those are the ones that we're not seeing a lot of at this point come on the market. Certainly have high demand for it, though.
Well, it's high demand because they're making money on these places.
That's correct.
I mean, they're making money on this stuff.
There's just not a big inventory here coming from Los Angeles.
No,
there's duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes all over the place. And here, when there's just not that many to begin with.
Okay, but why? Why are we so short of this here? It seems like that high density housing,
being a sleepy little town that didn't need it, and now all of a sudden everybody's moving here, and they can't afford it, or they want the 2-family setup, and they want to live side by side and do some sort of.
I would
kind
think
of
those are
investments.
investment opportunities just waiting.
Well, they are,
aren't
and
they?
as soon as they're on the market, if they're clean, if they're priced right, they go quickly.
Yeah,
no issues with that.
But you want them to be pretty nice.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of terrible places, or you got to fix them up,
or
right?
you buy them right.
Yeah.
Correctly.
But the demand, you're both saying, the demand for this is simply really high.
It is.
All right,
Absolutely.
Joe, do you see, I mean, you go to the planning commissions in the county, Medford, I mean, you go to all these meetings.
More than I'd like to sometimes.
We're going to finally get some information from you here after all those hours. This is happening all around. Why don't we see more of the multi-unit stuff coming?
Again, it takes a long time. We've expanded our urban growth boundaries. Medford is one of the first ones out in front of having that process finalized, and still it's a limited amount of additional inventory that can accommodate multifamily housing.
I know.
And then just the chance to get the plans drawn, the dirt purchased, or if you've even got it, to get the plans through and to actually get a construction crew and the whole process lined up. You're not talking about just building a single-family home. You're talking about building some bigger units and taking bigger crews. And our labor force is maxed a little bit, but there's constant demand. I don't know what the key is to keep up with it or how fast we're going to be able to accommodate it. It's not the process within the cities or the county or anything that whole setup.
You know those units that they built over by in West Medford by Bimart across in that area over there? I don't know what that's called. Now that was pretty new, and it looks like it just
There's
filled right
over
up.
There, yeah.
Well,
there's
that's
several new additions
it built
over there.
right. It's full.
Right. That.
Gary's looking up stuff. He's got all these kinds of things. Well, it's full. The point being is that obviously that's an affordable place, and the demand was certainly there.
Well, that's
for those.
The Smith brothers that built that and also built Charles Point.
Okay, Charles Point.
Charles Point is a 600 unit complex, massive.
Is that full? Is that right now with 600 units in there?
Yeah.
Is there really?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was
Charles
that many.
Point.
Okay.
And then on West Main that you're talking about is about half that size.
Okay.
Now we have right now in contract 3.68 acres that we just recently had rezoned to multifamily residential 30.
Where at now?
Multifamily 30.
Okay, where at?
This is at kind of off the hard corner of Lozier and West Main.
Okay.
The property where Papa John's Pizza was back behind there, we've just rezoned all of that, went through a land partition and also a lot line adjustment in
Okay.
order to be able to do this.
Oh, wow, okay.
We're 8 months into it, and we've just now gotten everything finalized to be able to, we're still going through some due diligence right now with the buyer, but he hopes to put as much as 30 units per acre.
Okay.
We've got 3.68 for
That's
development.
excellent.
And high density, I mean, that's what we need is that high density. What is the units over that they're building off of?
Behind Albertsons there on Ross.
Okay, let's start there.
Well,
Okay,
that's
all right.
Jackson County Housing.
So that's Jackson County's public housing
And
or
so,
affordable
and so
housing?
is some
Okay.
of those other multi-units that are off Stewart, right in there, I
The
believe.
park
aren't they?
down by
Yeah.
Fichtner
Them
Marion,
too.
Fichtner
Yeah.
Marion Park down there. What are those units down
Where
being
is
built
this?
there? By the park, down where you drive by it every day.
Fichtner doesn't have that.
By the
Stewart,
Providence Hospitals thing down
Stewart
there.
Meadows is
Stewart
that's,
Meadows.
that's
Stuart
yeah.
Meadows.
What is that?
Right. Yeah.
What is that in there?
Those are the Smith brothers again building out
Okay.
of that area.
Right.
And
Yeah.
how many units are in there that are going to go in there eventually?
A minimum of 300.
Okay,
I was
wow,
talking with
okay.
one of their agents today.
And how much is this going to affect the market? I mean, is this
And
is
isn't
this
that
gonna-
mixed use? That there's
That is.
residential, there's commercial. It's one of the
That's
new
correct,
and modern
yeah.
developments that
Yeah.
kind of ties everything
Yeah.
you need into your neighborhood.
Okay.
With that
to
within
reduce the
development
amount
there.
of traffic and flows and things
Congestion,
like that out of
everything,
there?
yeah.
And there's another development going in. Taylor Elements is putting in Phoenix there as you go through town on the
Right, on the
right-hand
right side, some condos
Yeah,
in
that's
there.
Scott
Yes.
Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some more units that are being built. Just see, where is it?
Well, there is stuff being built. I mean, there's
Right.
more than you think. When you again, that's why it's a love having you here, Gary. You know this. What's
There's
going on with this?
There's
Yeah.
a little tiny lot just on Peach, just south of Stewart, where
Right.
there's a little multifamily that's
Yeah.
kind of squeezing
And
its
those
way
are
in there.
all rentals too. Where
And these are
Yeah,
rentals,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Is it better to have this type of housing or condo type housing? I mean, what do you guys think about that? I'm curious.
Well, condominium, I mean, serves the purpose of people that want less to take care of. They like the association
And
they like
ownership and things like
ownership
that. Okay.
and things
Yeah.
being taken care of. So there's less to do monthly that way for
Yeah.
them.
Plus, they actually own it, and as opposed
You
to
own
paying
it
That's
rent.
versus
right. Yeah,
just
that's a
paying
purchase.
rent, and
That's
that's part of the
ownership.
big deal. Yeah.
You bet.
But still, the demand for that, because again, you can take certainly persons out of that housing when you start, and then you buy your first house, and then you do those things, and that's how it works, right? I mean, that's what's
correct.
supposed to work.
Yeah.
Right?
There just doesn't seem to be a lot of smaller duplex, triplex units. There are all these big buildings going
And
up.
that's
for
what we
the-
need so many of. is
for the
additional
smaller investor.
Okay.
Who,
Additional dwelling units. We got a break coming up. We're going to talk about additional dwelling units because Cheryl deals with those a lot of what's going on with it. Because again, if you can use your property to earn income for it to help you along in your family, gosh, it makes sense to check these things out and do them. And we have opportunities are out there. We just got to take advantage of them. Again, we want to be smart real estate consumers out of the whole deal. We got a break coming up here. We're with Gary Stampsl, Cheryl Malone today here on the Real Estate Show. Guy Giles out away from us this week. We'll talk a little interest rates as well. All that and more when the Real Estate Show continues here on KCMX and on YouTube right after this. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today. And thanks for joining us here as we're spring is sprung. What hasn't the weather? It's just been beautiful. Ah, my goodness, it's I love it when it gets this way right now. In the spring, April showers, we had those. We're going to have May flowers, and a whole lot of people are going to be coming up looking for properties.
February and March make you wonder
goodness.
if it's ever going to come back.
This
but
year,
it always does.
Yeah. And if you notice, I love it. By the way, we're talking today. This is Cheryl Malone and Gary Stampsl from Windermere Van Vliet. We're talking here on the Real Estate Show. We just finished a great segment on multi-housing, multi-unit housing. I learned a lot from you on that, Gary, and thanks for that. Okay, additional dwelling units. We haven't sold it yet, but I've still got Ashland was the first one that did this. They changed it's called a cottage ordinance, right? Mm-hmm. The cottage ordinance. Small segments, small parcels, 200-300 square foot proper homes on little bitty lots are going to be sold separately as part of that particular. It's the thing. Medford's looking at this too, right?
No.
Right. I mean, other cities are looking at additional dwelling units as well, not particularly that particular thing. So, Cheryl, what's happening with all of this? You think it's a good thing, or tell me what you're hearing and seeing?
well, a lot of the clients that I come across are looking for the two-family setup where, they're relocating for some reason or another, and they usually want rural properties where they can have, multi families living on the same parcel, which is not allowed you're allowed one dwelling unit on each tax lot. So it's kind of hard to find two houses in a rural situation that's actually legal for you to have. So the only way that a lot of them can end up doing it is if they buy it within the city, and the city does allow you to have an additional dwelling unit, usually up to no more than half the size of the main house in certain circumstances. And which seems to accommodate them if they're coming with, family members that they want to take care of or need help and things like that. So there's a demand for it for sure.
I think there's more maybe even out there than we realize on this, because it allows you to do so many other things with your property. Additional dwelling units can be over garages. I mean, you can put them anywhere,
can
right?
Part of the main house, you can section off a part of your house and get a permit to have an additional dwelling unit and actually rent that part of the house out and live in the other part of the house like a duplex. You can take your house and turn it into a duplex.
Right.
Or you can build another structure on the property that's a certain size.
But it's easier.
Limit.
It's easier in the city to do that than in the rural area. Correct.
Correct. Yes.
Now, I've also read in the Oregon legislature. Every time we bring that name up, Joe goes into things. Now, calm down. We haven't said anything yet. Anyway, the legislature. One of the things that they're considering doing is allowing, certainly in rural areas, additional dwelling unit properties to be built without this stupid restrictions that have been in place. I think for so long, for so long, and I think if that happens, that's going to be good for multifamily housing, two-family setups. I mean, we've got to accommodate this. I don't know where, or we're going to end up with a homeless problem like San Francisco.
We can't accommodate it in our municipalities and our urban areas because we just don't have the room for it. People in the rural areas should be able to accommodate their family and have that option to provide that.
It makes sense that you'd allow it in the country because there's plenty of room and that's a good setup for it, but they'll allow you to squeeze them in the city.
Well, and a lot of it is that city lots are small. We see flag lots and getting small. They're getting smaller, aren't they, as you've gone up the hill? That's right. How do we come back in Ashland was on a thing of infill. Other cities are doing that too, right?
Ashland is so unique. I've been in Ashland. That's an understatement.
It's a show unto itself.
You and I have that Ashland syndrome thing,
and
Gary.
I've been there 38 years.
I was there 28. Okay, you're there 10 more than me. Wow.
Just because I wasn't paying attention for the first 10.
But
Ashland is unique in itself because I know investors in the Ashland area and friends with some people that when they're buying a property, they look to see if there's anything they can change immediately to create an additional dwelling unit.
Right,
and that's generally a detached garage that they can put into a situation where they file for that and get permitted.
Okay.
Some are not permitted, but that's what they look for, is the ADUs there. And so Ashland is full of that. If you go down any of the alleyways in Ashland, you'll see ADUs behind the houses all day long.
Everywhere, that's
right.
Especially in Ashland, because people want to live in Ashland, but they can't afford Ashland. So this allows them to be able to live in Ashland because they get that extra little help with that extra unit. So
sure, absolutely. Well, I think we're going to see more. I hope we're going to see more in Medford. Medford has lots and lots of room on larger lots to allow people to do this if they want. I think I hope we see more multi-unit building. All we see, this is my big complaint all the time, is that all we see are 3 twos being built, and I know that they're in demand, but that's about it. Right. We don't see very many duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes being built anywhere.
Because duplexes would help solve some of the problem that two families can live in the duplex.
At least they can
feel like they have their own home as opposed to having to go to an apartment or they just can't afford it. So
right. Well, we'll see what happens with it. Sure, I think it's going to be a big deal. I hope.
I have noticed something which I'm kind of glad to see too, is a lot of my clients who are coming here are coming to be closer to their parents or to help take care of their parents and things like that. And I think in our culture that's a great thing to see, that they're actually wanting to help.
It is so much more than I think people
And we've got to be able to
realize.
accommodate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Many,
and
many.
that's what these people are looking at further. Their parents are living with them, and
Because
it's
you
great.
want them to stay in their home as long as they can. And because again, where are they going to go when you leave? And we've had that discussion of seniors, when you leave, you downsize your house, where do you go and what are your options? Now, Gary, you're also involved with, I know, in storage units.
That's correct.
Self-storage. My God, they're everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah.
You
Talk
think
about an area we have not talked about within our industry.
ever.
Yeah.
We've not talked to this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're everywhere. And I assume every time I go into one, I look and see if there's any empty locks.
Yeah.
We have too much stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what's the story with those things? I see this. Are they profitable? Are they ever come for sale? Or tell us about those.
Well, they are profitable, and they do come on the market.
They do. Okay.
Between Josephine and Jackson County, there are about 100 ownerships.
Different ownerships of storage units.
Yeah.
I would never have
and,
thought that.
And some own 2 and 3 and
Sure.
4.
Right, sure.
Some
Right.
just own 1.
Sure.
And so I market on a regular basis to the ownerships in hopes that I will have an opportunity to meet with the owners. I'll be listing a property in mid-May over in the Grants Pass area. And primarily what I do is I go in and I meet initially with the owner. We walk the property. And generally it's for them to have some type of a market analysis. So
Okay.
I'll give them some type of a date that I can come back. I take a look at their income. I take a look at their expenses. I take a look at the condition, classification of whether an A, 2, 3, or 4 star type facility. And then we try to give them a market analysis to give them a value on the property. And I work very closely with them in marketing those properties.
I would assume with 100 plus ownerships that a lot of people who own these are near retirement age and are interested in selling these places. I mean, we see that in the we did a show on business opportunities a few weeks ago, and so many local businesses are owned by people who are retiring.
Right.
And
That's right.
okay, same thing here.
Such is the case is the one that we're working on now for mid-May.
Okay, all right, same thing.
Yeah, a gentleman that's approaching up in years. So very profitable. There's been lots of build-outs. There's only been 2 or 3 sales in the last year, but we have build-outs on Delta Water, or not on Delta Waters, on between Central Point and the Crater Lake Highway. I'm trying to think of the main drag there that goes into Central Point. Big new facility there that's going in. Exit 24, their new facility there that is climate controlled. Lots and lots of units there, well over 300, 400.
And are all these units full? Are all these places full?
Well, some are, still trying to fill them up. They had one recently built in Central Point that is still working. They're about an 85%.
Wow.
I mean, it just doesn't it blow you away?
I remember lots of clients moving here over the past few years, and you couldn't find a storage.
You couldn't
unit
even
anywhere.
find
You
one.
couldn't even find
And I
one.
think that's what sparked it. Vilas Road is the road that I was thinking.
Vilas
of.
Road, sure. Oh, okay,
Got
yeah.
a
Okay.
massive new facility
Right.
going on there about midway down. Very lucrative and a strong buying market for those when they hit the market. I've got a list of people that buy in they want certain levels of income, cap rates.
So when these things come on the market, they're pretty much scooped up pretty fast.
Very fast.
And
Just hearing Gary's 30, 45-second rundown of the numbers you have to crunch, and he comes back and you have to know the levels of
Correct.
There's a lot of knowledge involved.
Well,
that's a niche. That's a niche that requires your experience and years of
thank you.
experience and tracking and watching.
And I learn all the time. I learn every day.
It told me immediately that I'm not going to be brokering any storage units. That's what I learned on the show today. I'm going to refer it to Gary if anyone's asked me, though. I know someone I can
what
work
what he was saying is that you have to be, if you're in, you got to buy one. You have to be ready to go. Because they're going to be gone.
You're ready to go.
I mean, it's like everything else. If you're buying a house, you have to be ready to go.
And I can imagine
you can't dawdle. You got to have it all there.
It's like sellers of residential properties. You come out and they have a little higher opinion of what they've got to offer and what their value might be, and you got to work them through that.
It's a great investment. You just make your investment. You don't have any lawns to mow and any tenants.
You don't have much. You don't have much expense. I mean, you really
no maintenance.
Yeah.
You just
The gates open, the gates close, and the cash register rings.
And the climate controlled ones are going to be more money per month than the non-climate controlled ones would be my guess.
Yeah.
You also we're going to get a break coming up here in a couple minutes, but you also deal with manufactured home parks.
I do.
Now. Again, it's probably similar. There's probably a lot of them out there, a lot of ownership, local ownership. Is that also true?
That's true, and again, in high demand, especially for the nicer parks. I have people, a lot of out of the area investors.
Out of
that
area
contact
investors,
me.
yep.
Somehow they've gotten a hold of my name from LoopNet and CoStar and places like that. They don't come on the market very often, but when they do, people are ready for them. Primarily, they're looking for the Class A parks that are not ownership owned units. That everybody owns their own units. In other words, the park owners don't own those units.
They just own the land.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But we still have markets also for people that want to buy. I have several clients now that own their units and own their parks that way, and they're fine with that. You know, they control more that way.
They're 55 and over parks are one thing.
They're golden. They're golden.
Those are the big ones.
Absolutely.
For families though, there's not very many parks available.
Correct.
That's a problem again.
Yeah.
That we could have more housing for many more people by having more manufactured home parks available, especially for families. Yeah. Well, even for 55 and older.
They're costly to build and to develop, and then you've got to have people that want to live in that particular park buy and move in, and so it's it's a long process.
Right, and a long time to get the return.
That's right.
But you get one.
They're
very profitable.
Everybody had to start somewhere.
I mean, they got to be profitable.
That's right.
And a lot of them are corporate owned. Some of the big ones here are corporate owned, and
right.
others are not. But there's a lot of individual owners again, and some of them are getting in age. And so we may see parks come on the market too a little bit.
Circumstances in their family.
Yeah, large ones or small ones even.
That's right.
See, isn't that interesting how different stuff goes and that's around us that we really don't know much about, but is there and such a part of the whole real estate world and market. Okay, we got a break coming up here. We're with Cheryl Malone and Gary Stampsl here today on the Real Estate Show for Guy Giles from Bank 34 Mortgage. We got one more segment to go. Check out all of our website, please. All of our past shows at realestateshowOregon.com. We are coming right back after this. And the Real Estate Show continues here on KCMX News Media 880, YouTube as well at realestateshowOregon.com. Pete and Joe, the Real Estate Guys, with you today. And thanks for joining us here as we have an interesting conversation going on here with Gary Stampsl and Cheryl Malone from Windermere Van Vliet. They're sitting in here for Guy Giles, who's normally with us talking about mortgage interest rates, but Guy is stuck and will be back with us next month as well.
He's gifted us with a great show.
We got these two here today, and haven't we learned a lot? Really, I've learned a lot. Multifamily homes and what you're talking about, large units. Gosh, we need more of those. Gary also deals with storage units, which see a lot of those. But again, if you want to be an investor starting somewhere, you got to get a hold of someone like you to get that ready. I mean, you just can't say, I want to go buy one. You're not going to get it. It's never going to happen.
I'll be happy to meet with people, sit down and do the preliminary, what we need to do, and discuss those types of things. Happy to do it.
Just takes an initial conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Manufactured home parks, the same thing. What I really got from you was that there are so many individual owners of parks, of storage units, and as we go through, they're all many of them are my age and older. Therefore, they're retiring, and opportunities exist. There's going to be opportunities out there. I guess the bottom line is there are going to be opportunities out there if you want to. Before we got to honor Guy with interest rates. We got to talk about interest for 1 second. Okay, I told him
because he's done well. He's kept him down for us. He's done a good job of that.
He's done really good this year, hasn't he? Remember in October, interest rates were like 5.2%. Remember that, Cheryl? Right. Remember that? I mean, Guy was. And look at it. And predictions were going to go higher. And here we are at the end of April, and they're right at that 4% mark. They were a little bit below. They went up a little bit this last week. But as long as that stock market does well, then this goes down. It's interesting how interest rates go down. Anyway, right around 4%. So again, they're fabulous. They're fabulous rates still.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is great because, especially at the peak of the market here, where people have the ability to now buy because again their tax, getting their tax returns and their refunds and the flowers are blooming, and that always helps.
And Cheryl, tax refund. Cheryl, your tax refund.
She can help you. She can help you with it.
That's right.
She can help you turn it into bigger refunds down the line.
That's right. You buy some investment property, you can get more deductions, and you get a better refund. You can buy some more next year. That's what I did.
Prices have plateaued a little bit, so that low interest rate still provides the buying power. Don't Don't sit on the fence too long if you're in a position or if you're close to be able to get into the home ownership game.
Yeah.
Do so. It's the time is ripe right now. We might not say that. Who knows 9 months from now where we're at.
One of the stats of the week from if we go to our John L. Scott office meetings, it gets interesting information. One of them was what's the number one reason a person sells a home? Do you two know? Would you three
Venture.
What is the number one reason people sell their home? This is an NAR survey. I mean, NAR statistic.
Relocating.
No, that's in the top 10. Yes, relocating for a job is on there.
Moving on up.
Your house
To
is
the
too small.
east
Your house
side.
is too small.
Oh, really?
Number one.
I would have gone the other way.
The house is too small.
You haven't been by my place with the grandkids over.
Anyway, so also, again, what was
might
happening
be.
with the market and why it's so important when you talk with Cheryl or any of us is that what are the months with the inventory supply, that month supply of inventory? We've been saying inventory is up, right?
Right.
We see it. Inventory is up, but it's up in certain areas and not in certain areas, but there's still a demand. If you're in that 300, in Jackson County stats here, if you're in the 150 to 250,000 range, you have a 1.1 month supply. That has not changed. In fact, it's even gone down from what it was. Okay, remember a normal market is 6 months there.
Yep.
If you're in the $250,000 to $350,000 range, it's 1.8 months of inventory. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, if you go to the higher markets, you've got 6 months supply in the higher market. So just keep that in mind. We're still getting multiple offers on lower priced properties that are in good shape. If they're move-in ready, I mean, they're going to be scooped up tomorrow. And if you have a property that's on the market, been on there for a while, what's the matter with it?
Overpriced.
It's overpriced because things are selling.
Yep.
And the biggest thing that I find out is just the deferred maintenance is really issues with so many people today. If you're a buyer, and I've got buyers, I'm going through this every day. We go look at properties in 300,000 range or whatever the range is. If it's not move-in ready, they're not going to get that price.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're going to get it.
That's true.
The deferred maintenance is just sometimes really overpowering, and I know that sellers, we have these issues, but think about those things because they're certainly real and very much out there, right?
Right.
Well, it translates into more money.
Yes.
You take the fine tuning, and you go in and you listen to your broker, and they really know the market, and they're telling you these certain things are going to be drawbacks or hurdles. Let's take care of them now.
Yep.
And that's going to translate into more money at closing.
Yeah.
And it just works that way.
Well, what happens is the people go in and they say, well, I need to do, this and that and the other needs to be done. How much is that going to cost me? That money's coming directly out of their pocket,
Right.
and they've got to have to save for it. That's going to be a burden on them. They'd rather pay more money for a house that they don't have to do that for, and then they're not worrying having to come up with, thousands of dollars out of their pocket
they're ahead in the
to
long
make
run.
that
Yep.
repair and so on. So
And despite what we talk about the market in the available houses inventory, 82% of sellers are giving some sort of concession to the buyers.
That's changed a lot.
So even with the market but what are those concessions? It could be anything from a home warranty. It can be a little bit of closing costs, help, whatever. But again,
And what's list of sales price?
list of sales price in Jackson County last month, sellers are getting 94.9% of their asking price. Again, that shows us that there's more inventory, more negotiating power for buyers right now.
Yep.
A little bit more
right.
power.
Glimmer of hope.
Because that figure was 97. That was like 90.
Right.
It was almost 97% at one time a few months ago. So that is a year ago it was 96.3. So that's dropped. So that's significant. Anyway, it's just a dynamic market that's out there, and so much going on in all areas. My goodness, we hear from Gary and what you're doing. I mean, look at that, and we didn't even know it was even out there.
Yeah. And it's really good news. I did not know of the other developments of multifamily that are in the works. And,
Right.
And boy, we've got our crews our labor
There's
crews are
a lot-
working as
lot
hard
going
as they
on.
can,
Yep.
boy. And they're putting them up, and we'll fill them all.
Yep.
You know what I think we need to get here is people come here and ask, do we have 55 and older communities that are not mobile home parks? And we don't really have any. There's one going up there, I think, off of McAndrews up near Hillcrest there, that Silver Park or something it's called. But other than that, I mean, you can make some smaller homes that are actual homes in a community of of 55 and older, I think those will sell all day long.
We've been waiting
Yes,
for the Southeast Medford area to have some of this kind of stuff of what you talk about.
Yeah.
We saw those in Corvallis,
Yeah.
remember? We
Right,
saw
right.
a wonderful neighborhood that had tiny homes on it,
Yeah.
and all the way up to really nice, beautiful homes as you went through this neighborhood.
They want
So-
the camaraderie and the peace of mind that
Yeah.
there's other people.
Yeah.
and,
Like-minded, yeah.
Yeah.
More options.
Silver Park, though. It sounds like you're making fun of my
Silver
beard.
Park. Yes. What it does,
There's no pepper left. It's all salt.
anyway, it gives us more options. We need more options for people in housing. That's
Yep,
for sure.
yep.
Well, gosh, Gary and Cheryl, thank you for coming. Gary, I
Well,
learned
thank
a lot.
you. Thanks so
they-
much.
People can Google you. You're both at Windermere Van Vliet, so you
Yeah.
can find. They're easy to
Sure.
find,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but certainly get a hold of you, especially if you're interested in the areas that Gary specializes there in those homes and multi-units, and because you got to be ready, or you're never going to get one of those. You have to be ready to go.
Thank you both for a
so
great show.
Appreciate
Thank you so
that.
much. I
Enjoyed
appreciated
visiting with
being
you.
here.
And Guy Giles will be back with us next week as well. Well, that's going to do it for the Real Estate Show today. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you watching. Check out our Real Estate Show website at realestateshoworegon.com. Until next week, have a wonderful week, and God bless you all.